I think the very first recruitment workshop itself I attended, I kind of realized this was more than just teaching.
Right.
That's when I realized, okay, this is much more bigger, and like we're really trying to solve a problem,
Something big,
not just
yeah.
like doing some surface level things.
I always thought I'd be the worst person to do something like this, specifically creating
interesting.
reels, right?
Yeah.
Consumption I'm really good at, creation not so much. But I realized that, it's not that difficult. Like if I put in enough effort, I can actually be good at that.
Any moments like that makes me really happy. I'm like, okay, this is what community organizing is entirely about.
Yeah.
You see a problem, you come together and
you solve for that problem. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, start. Hello and welcome to MBA Without Debt, our new podcast series where we dive deep into stories of leadership, impact, and inspiration. I'm your host Akshay, and today we are spotlighting one of the most dynamic role within Make a Difference, the community organizer role, or CO as we like to call them. COs are the backbone of MAD's mission, driving change and creating lasting impact. And who better to give us a first hand account than our incredible guest today? Let me introduce you to Gautham. He is a BTech graduate in. Oh, hi, Gautham. He is a BTech graduate from Karuna Institute of Technology and Science. And his journey with Make a Difference is nothing short of inspiration. Starting as an academic support volunteer way back in 2018, Gautham has worn many hats from city manager to regional manager for human capital vertical in Make a Difference. Currently, he is leading communications and demand generation efforts while also serving as a community organizer for Mysore and supporting teams from Vijayawada, Guntur, and Hyderabad. Welcome, Gautham, to the podcast.
Hi, Akshay. Glad to be here.
Good. Gautham, we are thrilled to have you on the show. But I recently found out that one of your videos that you recently posted on Instagram got more than 3 million views. So congratulations for that. So what are you more proud of at this point of time? The 3 million views that you got on one of the videos that you posted, or being a guest in this podcast, the first podcast that we are doing right now?
I think definitely this podcast. But see, it was very exciting coming into this room setting itself. I think like it was really excited me. But 3 million views also, I never expected that reel.
Yeah.
Because I was doing a 100-day challenge. It was a random 39th post. It got 3 million.
3 million.
So I'm very happy about that also.
And I think if I remember yesterday, you posted on your Instagram that at somewhere in the evening it was 1 million.
Yeah.
And today morning when we are looking at it, it's close to more than 3 millions if I'm not wrong.
That's an insight that I can share to others also.
Go for it.
Randomly one day, it was 700K, and in 24 hours it reached 2.5 to 3 million. So I think if it picks up, it really picks up.
And did you do anything different to ensure that it picks up, or it just happened organically?
I don't think I did anything different.
Okay.
It just happened organically. Yeah.
So there's no learning there, to be specific.
Sorry, guys.
Okay. Okay. So to kick things off, can you tell me, or can you tell all of us, all our listeners, a bit about how you first got involved with Make a Difference in the very first place? Because if I'm not wrong, you're studying at that point of time in college. Yeah. I have also been a college student, and most of my peers, and in fact me also, we used to do a lot of things for fun. But I never thought of joining an NGO and volunteering with them. What happened with you? What shifted in you? Why did you pick up that particular role?
Yeah, so this was my second year in college, and I think there was a strike going on in my college. So there was a couple of months holidays basically. So at that time, I used to play chess in high school, and because of that, I got a part-time job opportunity to teach kids chess in the chess academy.
Okay, in some academy.
In some academy, I had to go ahead and do that. So I was doing that for 2 months, and because I was doing that, one of the fellows in match, like she was also my school friend, Shri. Shri reached out to me, and then she asked, "Hey, because you're already doing this, can you also come here and like teach children?" And at the time I thought, okay, I'm teaching chess, now I have to say teach biology. Sounds interesting. Why don't I give it a shot?
Yeah.
So that's how I came. That's how I heard about MAD, and that's how I thought I'll just give it a shot.
And see how it goes.
But then it went really well. So now I'm here.
So I understand why you came into MAD ecosystem, that you're teaching something somewhere else and you you drew a parallel where you thought, okay, I can do something like this
Yeah.
for some bunch of kids, right,
Yeah.
who are probably underprivileged or from low income communities,
Yeah.
and that sort of thing. What made you stay back in MAT for so long? Like, I think it's been 6 years right now.
It's been
More than 6 years, yeah.
This is my
And you have
second,
done
yeah.
so many different roles also. It's not like you did that role itself.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
made you stay in MAD and what made you continue and keep on growing in the system itself?
I think the very first recruitment workshop itself I attended,
Hmm.
I kind of realized this was more than just teaching.
Hmm.
And one of the things I think at the time, Naveen was the one who was facilitating, I think.
Hmm.
And he said something like, sure, by now, people might be donating 300 rupees, some clothes when it comes to some natural disasters and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But how much is that really helping? And then he spoke about all the things that he has done and like what Mad has done.
Right.
That's when I realized, okay, this is much more bigger. And like we're
Yeah.
really trying to solve a problem,
Something
not
big,
just
yeah.
like doing some surface level things.
Hmm.
And so that is one.
Right.
Where the Mad itself, like our goal was always very high and
Yeah.
ambitious. And I think I'm also a little bit like that. So therefore that alignment was there.
Hmm.
But year on year, I think why I stayed, I think it's definitely because of the people.
Yeah.
Each year, I think MAD has a way of just like making human beings better when they come into
True.
MAD.
True.
So each and every year in different teams that I've been a part of, I really loved working with them
Yeah.
also.
Yeah.
So I think it's a mix of both.
Yeah. And I can totally vouch for what Gautham just said because I've been continuing in MAD year after year and my regions are also somewhat similar. But yeah, that's such a powerful story, right? Where you have clearly been deeply inspired by the work that MAD has been doing, right? The mission that MAD is trying to achieve, the vision that MAD is trying to achieve, right? I have seen that once you joined as an academic support volunteer and then later on you played multiple other roles. So for some time you were in human capital vertical, right, managing people, resources, right, and all those pieces. Then when you decided to start working after your college, you decided to join MAD full time. And in MAD you have played multiple other roles also, right? So say for example currently you are doing comms and figuring out how demand generation piece in MAD will look like. You have already been part of program verticals and I think 2 programs, right? You have been part of transition readiness also and to some extent ed support program that we used to run, right? And then currently you are playing the role of community organizer, right? You could have picked up any role throughout the journey, right? Because you have played multiple roles. What excited you about the community organizer role? Why did you apply for that specific role this year?
Okay, got it. I mean, this is mine. I'd like to hear about like how you are also excited about this, or at least how the role was introduced to you. But I think I played different roles of these as city mentors and stuff like that. My first chapter was Ahmedabad, but then I think in 2023 is when we completely redefined that role, and that's when I was actually pretty excited also because we redefined the role and the model. And that's when I realized, okay, this person, this community organizer, we're really going to invest in this role. And this person is like going to be very responsible for the overall chapter itself. And this is what I knew. So in some way, I already knew because I was already a full-time employee in MAD. I knew I was going to be allocated to a city already. And as a community organizer. So I was very interested at the time because I knew this was the role. And I was just like very interested to see, okay, which chapter am I going to be a part of? And like really step into the role and actually see how it's going to turn out.
So what excited you is the uniqueness of the role himself, or how we redefined that entire mentoring role and how we work closely with the chapter. For me, it was also on the same lines. What excited
you were
me?
for Nagpur, no? The first time,
as for Nagpur last year, this year I'm working much more closely with Mumbai as a chapter. For me, it was because I always get excited about testing new things, right? And when the community organizer role was introduced at that time, if you remember, it was like a pilot that we wanted to test and run and see how it actually pans out, right? And what excited me about that role, apart from being a test or pilot, was the fact that I'll have my own community of people, right? And I'll be able to work with them, right? Groom them, coach them, right? And create a much bigger impact in a smaller geography or with a bunch of children, right? Because it was very hyper focused and hyper local at one chapter level. I felt that I can add a lot more value. I can give a lot more attention to one
Yeah.
chapter rather than working with like 5,
Correct.
6 different chapters. So that really excited me. And what also excited me in that through that particular journey, and it actually turned out true for me, was the possibility of creating longer relations, not only with the volunteers, the children, the youth, the fellows or volunteers that we work with, but also with other stakeholders, like say for example our partners, right? Or other different stakeholders in terms of vendors, venue people. That is something that excited me, and it actually turned out really well. Like a lot of my close friends over the last year and a half are the people that I worked with in Nagpur as a
Yeah.
chapter. So that definitely helped me be
Having
there.
your own community kind of stands out.
Yeah,
Also.
for sure.
Makes
Yes,
sense,
yes,
makes
yes.
sense.
And I think that is like even when we talk to CEOs from this year, that is something that comes out
For
again and
sure.
again
Yeah.
there as well. So at least that's true for me. Like I'm sure a CEO role that you and I have performed over the last couple of years has always been full of rewarding movement, but there have been challenging times also when we have done those pieces at chapter level. Uh, what has been your mic drop moment, right, over the last couple of years? What was that moment for you? Or if I have to rephrase that question a little bit, what was the most memorable moment or success story that you have seen in last 2 years that made you realize that the effort that I've put in last 2 years is worth every single minute that I've spent?
Okay, mic drop moment, I don't know. But see, I think something which really makes me happy is when there is a problem and people step up on their own to solve it.
Yeah,
And any of my mic drop moments would probably be that only.
those
So I think
moments.
my most recent example itself, I think in our chapter team in Mysore, we initially had two people drop out, and finally from a team of six, it was team
From
of
fellow
four.
team. Yeah.
From six people, it was four people, and then I kind of realized, okay, this for now we can manage, but after a while it might get difficult. But then the team realized it, and initially there were all talks about, okay, like I don't know if we can get people and stuff like that. By the time the next 2 weeks I joined it, there were already three new fellows. So they see a problem, they come together, they
And
solve
they
it.
solve for
And
those
this is my
problems.
most recent example. Okay, and one more thing also which made me really happy. This is probably not from my experience, this is not from Mysore, but in Ahmedabad, I'm sure you also know this.
Yeah.
One of the youths got very sick.
Yeah.
And he was admitted to a hospital.
Yeah.
Immediately, the chapter team knew, okay, like we have to do something about
Yes,
it. Go ahead,
yes.
mobilize resources, mobilize funds. I think they
Yeah.
raised about 1 lakh, and like
I think close to 2.5 lakhs they raised.
yeah.
Yeah.
And finally, they were able to help that
Yeah.
youth
Yeah.
also. So, which is great. I
Yeah.
mean, any moments like that makes me really happy. I'm like, okay, this is what community organizing is entirely about.
Yeah.
You see a problem, you come together and
You
solve
solve
it.
for that problem.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about the story that you talked about, because I was working closely with the chapter, and I actually went and met the youth also when the youth was admitted, was what's unique in that situation was the fact that it was not only this year's team who was trying to solve for it, right?
Yeah.
It was like 5, 6 year old alumni also who got to know about the situation, and in whatever capacity they could, they actually chipped in, whether it was helping them raise funds, whether it was about they donating themselves, because the youth that we were working with at that in that situation had no family members. It was the volunteers who actually stayed there 24/7 for almost close to 2 weeks till the youth actually got fully recovered and came back home. In fact, one of the challenges that we faced with that situation was we were unable to get that youth admitted into the hospital that we wanted to, right?
Got it.
And it was one of the other volunteers who was a medical student who ensured that this youth gets all the possible treatment, right? And I'm sure like that is what community organizing is all about, where everyone is coming together and trying to figure out solutions to challenges. And I'm sure there are many such challenges that you might have also encountered.
But yeah.
Personally, for me, at different stages, I've realized that I grew as an individual, right, both personally and professionally, when I was dealing with these challenges, right, or trying to solve for something. And I learned so many new skills, right? In this situation, what I genuinely realized is, okay, how important documentations can be, right?
Yeah.
How important having an idea of what the youth or child past health issues have been, because that was a big barrier for us to inform doctors so that they could diagnose what the entire situation was, right? And that was a big learning for me. How do we ensure that these youth have healthcare facilities or insurances, so that whenever something like this happens, they don't have to fully rely on external sources of funding so that they can take care of themselves. I'm sure you might have had those moments, right?
And I'm sure, I think those must have been learnings for anybody who was involved in that situation also.
Correct,
because
correct.
Sure, I mean, the medical student might already be knowing about
Yeah,
these things, but I'm
yeah.
sure the other volunteers who were involved, they would have been like, oh, should
Yeah,
all
we
these
could have
things also-
thought about these things. Yeah. But how has how has being CEO shaped you into who you are today, professionally and personally, specifically when you are managing people, managing programs, managing operations, sometimes managing funds, right? Managing relations also with shelter authorities, right? Has it shaped you in any way or form over the last couple of years?
I don't know about shaping and stuff, but see, I think because of the examples that you shared right now, one of the biggest things that constantly I've been doing is also really building and managing teams in some capacity or the other. And I think over time, really I've gotten much better at it. And some things, like, it almost comes little naturally to me. Like, I know some things that needs to be done when building a team, and more importantly, some things which I shouldn't be doing also.
Yeah, that I think is an even bigger learning, that this is something that I should not do for sure if I want to build a strong team. Yeah.
And probably one of, I mean, earlier examples also that I can think of is probably initially how I looked at the role community organizer. Okay, I play such a big role. I need to be involved in everything. I need to be doing most of the work. And these things, slowly, all of these things died down. And right now, I don't think I'm thinking about it in that way at all. So really, I think, like, because I've worked with so many teams and so many conflicts have happened and so many challenges I've faced, team has faced, which has affected the chapter also. Some things I think, like, come a little naturally to me, especially when I'm working with the people, a set of a community or a team. And I think that's probably, it shaped me that way, maybe, like in some way or the other. Yeah.
Is there anything that you did as a part of your role which you never expected you are good at, but when you started doing that role, right, you just realized that, oh, I'm actually good at this also? Like, if I have to share an example, so we started daily stand up, I think few months back, right? And one of the things that we started developing regularly is content, right? Content that energizes volunteer, engages volunteer. I always thought I'd be the worst person to do something like this, specifically creating reels, right? Consumption I'm really good at, creation not so much. But I realized that, oh, it's not that difficult. Like, if I put in enough effort, I can actually be good at that. Anything similar for you?
I think, you know what, I am able to think of two minor examples only. One of my realizations also I've had is when I'm having a coaching conversation, or generally, like, even a check-in conversation with any of my team members, the appreciation that I share, uh, I, I think I'm a little good at it in some way. Okay. And that's what I kind of realized. But I mean, my bigger point I was trying to make is, when I'm giving in feedback, my feedback is much more detailed, insightful. It has a lot more examples than my appreciation and stuff like that. So maybe my earlier assessment that I'm good at it also can be wrong, right? But but as in, because I'm having too many of these conversations, at one point I was like, shit,
I'm also good at giving like good feedback,
but I think I should, if I'm giving so much importance to the feedback, I should be doing it for the appreciation also. And that's one learning also I had. But sorry, I mean, you asked something else, but I mean, this example.
That's completely fine. But I'll reiterate the question. The question was something that you felt you are not good at, but later you realized that, oh, actually, that's not true. It was just me not doing it enough because of which I was feeling. So I'm assuming that's.
It's in some way it's related only, because where I was getting to also is, see, it's not like I was like, I think I know how to like make someone feel appreciated. That's something that I didn't think consciously.
Yeah.
So
It
like,
comes naturally to
yeah,
you.
I can do that also. That is one. But two, again, this is a very small thing. But once I think during LC we had to just like write down some appreciation notes to people. Some activity like that was there in one of the LCs. I think earlier a year back. And a lot of people were just like writing for each other. People came to me. I gave those two people that card that we
Yeah.
had. And because I was writing so much, I kept continuously writing. It was short amount of time. And I realized in that short time, I can actually put up
You
a
wrote
good
a lot
appreciation note.
appreciation for someone. Yeah.
It wasn't very generic and stuff. Each person came, I was able to personalize it, share a memory, and then immediately give it away.
Nice.
So, yeah, I
Fair.
don't think it is related to community organizing, but
Yeah, but it's something that you realize that
Yeah.
you are actually good at through
Yeah.
that process. For the people who are listening to us or talk about community organizer, and specifically from your vantage point of from your perspective, why do you think this role can be valuable specifically for someone who is just starting their professional career or professional journey, right? What do you think that they can learn from something like this, or so from managing smaller teams and smaller community, which they can probably take in their professional career also, not only in MAT but can implement somewhere else also?
Yeah. See, I think community organizer ultimately plays a lot of different things. So I would definitely highly recommend for someone who's just like starting out in their careers and they're like they really want to get into a similar field at least. Like if you really want to work with communities in some capacity or the other, this is a great role because for example, I'm not just playing the role of building and managing teams. That's just one.
Yeah.
I'm also playing the role of a facilitator.
Yes.
Sometimes I have to get into the field and play the game.
Yeah.
I have to be in a class.
Yes.
I have to be in a self-support group.
Yeah.
And sometimes I have to play the role of a coach, a mentor.
Yes.
And maybe even the smaller examples I'm sharing right now can be coming from these things
These
only.
spaces only.
Yeah. And so overall, it makes you a much equipped and a better individual once you come out of that role, just like playing the role like 1 or 2 years in MAT.
Yeah.
And see, and ultimately, you can just break down the word. It's community organizing. And you have a community. And like, what better community than a community who's working for a cause?
For a cause.
Yeah. And in MAD, like, we have like the best set of people also, like,
Yeah.
who's just like very loving and caring. And therefore, I think you'll have a good time also, just like doing these two things rather than just like learning some skills and stuff.
Correct. And I think in my experience, there are a lot of other things also. So you're constantly planning for different things. So your planning gets really better, right?
Planning as well.
You are also trying to organize resources. Like recently, I was talking to someone, one of the community organizers from Delhi, and few of the youth required laptops for their higher education, right? And it was them who were trying to figure out, okay, how do we like organize these resources so that the child and the youth can get benefit. Right. For someone who's just starting the career, early stages of their career, in workplaces, because I've worked in corporates also before this, it rarely happens that a 22, 23, 24-year-old person gets a team to manage, right? I've always reported back to someone. I never had a team till I was an assistant manager sort of position, right? And with the community organizer role, you actually get that role to play where you have your own team of fellows, you have your own team of volunteers, right? Who you're managing, mentoring, coaching, all the things that you talked about, which is a skill that any organization would die to have at this point of time in the people who are working with them, right? And I'm sure that those are some of the other things also that's there. I want to flip this question a little bit. What makes this role so special? So we talked about different skills that you learn, right? We talked about the challenges that you face. We talked about the wins that we gain through this entire journey. But if you have to highlight that one thing that makes this role a very special role, what would that be?
I will. I'm thinking about it. But do you have anything in mind? Like, what do you think like makes it the most special?
Well, I never expected a counter question for an answer. I think apart from being able to see that impact very closely, right? what makes this role a very special role for me is the constant process of zooming in and zooming out. Right. Like when I was a volunteer, most of the time I was just zooming in towards one child or the youth that I'm working with. Right. When I became a fellow in the system or a city lead or a chapter organizer, I realized that I was just zoomed out most of the time. Right. And I was looking at, okay, at a zoomed out level, what do I need to ensure so that the volunteers get supported in the best possible way, so that the child gets supported. Right. But as a community organizer role, which at some point you also pointed about this uniqueness of the role where you are zooming in also, which is I've attended SSGs, I've organized SSGs, I've had crisis conversation with youth, right? Mentoring conversation with youth. But at the same time, I'm also doing a very zoomed out lens where I'm also looking at multiple aspects, right? So currently, like for example, we are looking at expansions, we're looking at fundraising, we are looking at already preempting what can be the things that we can do to ensure that next year's teams are also in place. This for me is a very unique feature of this particular role and something that's really unique and special, which I have, like, even in MAD when I've done different roles, I have not seen something like this happening, which I experienced through the CEO role itself. So yeah, that for me is a very special thing about this role.
I think and I mean, because you just said this, because it's on top of my mind, I think like this has been one of my biggest learning, especially recently also, how important it is to zoom out, for anybody to zoom out in any capacity. And sometimes I have this little bit of guilt that, oh, I'm not going to classes enough, sessions enough, and all of that, especially considering right now I'm not in the city also. But some recent learning that I also had is the best thing you can do for the child is to actually zoom out at this particular situation. But having said that, I think what's special about this role is I think I'm not able to think of any examples, but there is a lot of learning also that you can actually get from bottom up. And there is a lot of changes, a lot of excitement which comes in, and just to be a part of that. I mean, ultimately, I think it's the community itself. Like I can't really think of any other answer, because the community comes together. They do things which is a lot of fun, but is also impactful. And constantly, when you do these things regularly over a period of time, a lot of solutions come up, and then you kind of implement it, which is also, I think, like is very special. So therefore, I think one of the important things that I have to do is just sense all the time. What's happening in my class, what's happening in the circle, and sometimes even if it's not the most important thing, for example, even if it's not the most important thing, but there's a lot of excitement around it, you can actually still go ahead and do it. Because who knows like what might come up after that.
And the community, the sense of community that you talked about, we saw that entire piece coming up alive during the Mad Week thing that happened, right?
Exactly.
Almost all the chapters, all the volunteers were involved in that entire process. Right.
And see, that's what I meant. So sometimes, not just in MAD, I think in a lot of organizations they do this. Okay, let's actually think about volunteer experience, volunteer management, and things like that. And there's too much operationalization around all of these things. But sometimes all you have to do is just sense
and see what.
And I realized, at least this year in Mysore, there was a lot of excitement around Mad Week. So at that time, sure, other projects are also important, but also just keeping that excitement alive and actually making them do things would really ultimately add up to volunteer experience
being better.
The community being stronger together. They're celebrating with the children. They're celebrating with other volunteers. So it's a great thing overall. And I get it. Not every time you'd be able to. Sometimes you have to like prioritize something else over the other. So I get it. There needs to be a balance as well. But sense making, I think, is like one key thing that you might have.
And while you are explaining the entire community thing, there's one more thing that made me that just came to me, which actually makes this role really special, is that you have autonomy at a chapter level,
Yeah.
at your community level,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
We shout out to a couple of CEOs that we have been working with, like
Hmm.
Prajwal, say for example, from Nagpur,
Hmm.
or Ravi from Guntur, right? They have tried and tested so many things on ground, which no one told, like basically no one instructed them to do that.
Yeah,
It's just that sensing that they did at their individual community and chapter level, right? And they realize that, hey, this needs to be done,
Yeah.
right? Like one thing that I know Prajwal, for example, in Nagpur is working on right now is how can I involve volunteers right from the beginning, so that by the time next year teams are supposed to be set up, these people are already experienced enough that they don't struggle next year. They already know how the operations run, right? Which is something that none of us told the community organizers. So that the role also comes with a lot of autonomy. I'm sure you will be delivering programs, you'll be delivering intervention, but apart from that, there's a lot of other things that you can do. One thing that a lot of chapters are doing right now is trying to see how volunteers can get involved in running projects and programs, right? And that actually makes this entire thing even more special with the autonomy piece being there. MAD is heading towards a different future, right? Over the past 18 years that MAD has operated, or MAD has worked in this space, we have mostly worked in childcare institutions, shelter homes, rescue homes, right? But moving forward, and if you look at that entire journey, the maximum number of children that we have had at any point of time has been 3,500 to 4,000 children. But now MAD is in a very different trajectory, right? Where MAD is also trying to explore opportunities of working with low-income schools, for example, right? Government schools, community centers, right? And moving away from just focusing on childcare institution, because we now have realized and believe that children in need and care and of protection or are not only in childcare institution but at different other places also. And that also means that the numbers will start doubling up year after year, right? So that is where we are heading towards right now. More children getting supported, new avenues through which we can support. And I missed out community-based care also that we are looking at right now in developing, right? So there's so many new things that's going to happen, right, in next couple of years. Do you see CEOs playing any role in that long-term vision of MAD? And if yes, what do you think some of the things that CEOs can actually do to ensure that that vision is achieved?
Sure, I think ultimately this is where Matt wanted to get to also eventually. So I think at one point we took a pause. We need to understand the problem a little bit deeper, understand the children and the youth that we are working with. And I think if I'm not wrong, from 2012 to 2019 we took that pause.
We developed our entire program, made it robust.
Exactly. And but unfortunately then came pandemic. But now since we're moving out of pandemic, that's where we wanted to reach more children and youth. Ultimately, like we want to reach as much as possible, because like we keep saying there are 3.5 million children that are in need of care, and community organizer comes in to really scale that. Like that role, if you are playing that role, you will also be responsible for reaching and supporting more children and youth. And that's where, like, also you mentioned about zooming out and stuff. Sure, at the beginning you might have to be involved in operations, not fit. Ultimately it needs to get to a point where chapters self-organize themselves, where you can really focus on
so that you can focus
sustaining
on other things.
How do I get in more number of volunteers, reach more number of children and youth. And I think that's why a CEO is accountable for expansions also in their chapter
chapters right now.
So definitely I see a lot of scope for community organizers. And I think like right now we're just like at the starting of it.
Correct.
And I'm actually very excited to see, because a lot more interesting stories are going to come. A lot more great, better CEOs are also going to be there. Like we don't even know what the future might look like. So for sure, I think like.
But I think I am pretty confident that the community organizing way is the way moving forward, right? Thank you so much for that, Gautham. I have one last question for you, right?
Yes.
Who do you think in your head is a great fit for a CEO role? Like if someone who's listening, who is just a volunteer at this point of time, or probably someone who is not even being a part of MAD right now, right? If you have to recommend that, hey, these are the people who can apply for community organizing role, who would those people be?
See, because I'm working with Mysore, Kritika as my CHO.
Yeah.
I think Kritika would make a great community organizer. Kritika, if you're watching
Kritika,
this, please
do apply for CEO role when it comes out.
So that is definitely one recommendation that I have, because see, honestly, she, not just her, but like she and the team also made a lot of things easier for me also. I think uh, I came halfway to Mysore when two people dropped out, and then I had to like manage, and sure, I had to step in for a while and stuff. But the way she just held the chapter ensured operations are running across, like not just like classes and sessions, but also SSGs, but also things like Mad Week, fundraising. It was just like very inspiring for me to see.
Yeah.
So that is definitely one name. Do you have a name? Meanwhile, let me think about my second name. Yes.
Yeah. I definitely, more than names, I actually feel that there anyone who wants to create an impact in the life of a children, right? Anyone who's excited about managing a bunch of people, right, and working closely with them, leading a team, right, to create an impact can be a community organizer. In my head, I don't think there's any category of people who cannot apply, right, for community. Like, for example, if you're a volunteer, I feel you can be a community organizer. If you have been if you're a fellow at this point of time, why not? You can be a community organizer or a CEO who has already experienced it once. I think that those would be the best set of people who can continue their impact by continuing as a CEO for next year. Right. I think a working professional can be a CEO.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
I think why not a youth also? If we are working with any of the youth right now, who is excited to take up that role, that youth can be a community organizer for me also. I was also thinking, for why not someone who has never been a part of MAD, right? But say, for example, has worked in social sector for some time, right, or have done some kind of fellowship, and is really excited to organize a bunch of people and community around them. They can also be a community organizer for me.
Yeah, I think, because you are saying all of this, and because the example that I shared also, I think one thing that you still might have to do as a community organizer, or not might, you absolutely should,
Will have.
is I don't think you can be a laid back participant kind of,
Yes.
or you can't step into that role with that mindset where answers will be given to me, solutions will be given to me,
and I'll just do it.
Yeah, I'll come late for meetings, or I'll complain a lot. I don't think it fits there. And so really a community organizer is, sure, there will be problems. You have to take ownership to solve it.
Yeah.
You need to show up in a way where I will own things and I will do
And
it.
I'll solve for things.
If I don't have clarity, I will seek clarity. If I don't have solutions, I will seek solutions. I'll talk to other people. I'll talk to other chapters.
Yeah.
And if you are already that person, or if you want to be that person, then this is a great role.
Great role for you. Thank you so much for adding to that, Gautham. It's been an absolute pleasure hearing you, your stories and insight. I mean, personally, for me, your passion for making a difference is genuinely like I am already feeling really happy, even with this shorter conversation that we have had. To our listeners, if Gautham's journey has sparked your interest in becoming a community organizer, stay tuned, because we'll be rolling out community organizer role really soon, right? And it's a space for you to learn more and for sure apply for that role. Until next time, keep leading, keep growing, and keep making a difference. Thank you so much, Gautham. Oh, do you want to go for it? Yes, we'll put it somewhere in between. So go for it, Gautham. Any closing thoughts?
I mean, it was lovely having this discussion with you, Akshay, because I think I remember last year how you also played that role of a CEO for Nagpur, and Nagpur did really well last year. And I think one more thing that a community organizer also does really well is you build things, right? So 2023 Nagpur did really well. 2024 Nagpur is still doing really well. And so it was really nice talking to you. I've thought of things like which I really didn't think about it before. So overall, it was very nice.
Thank you so much, Gautham. Thanks for tuning into MBA Without Debt. Don't forget to like. Do we talk about share and subscribe? I don't think we need that anyways till now. But do share this episode with someone who might just be the next great community organizer in your chapter. and stay tuned for many such interesting podcasts and conversation that is going to come your way probably every week and every few weeks, right? So stay tuned for more such content. Okay, 1, 2, 3, start. 2 stories of leadership, impact. That will get recorded.
Other people will come directly, they wouldn't know.
I hope from window they can see that we are recording.
हाँ.
मैं बड़ा setup करके बैठ गया.
Okay, I'll say 1, 2, 3, you clap. Okay, 1, 2, 3.
Clap. I don't have to say clap, right?
Okay.
Thank you so much, Gautham. Thank
Shake
you.
hands.